Okay, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to do a video on car buying. So whether that be car leasing, whether that be getting a loan, whether that be buying the car outright, we're going to talk about buying new, we're going to be talking about buying used. So without further ado, let's get right into the subject of the video. And if you stay to the end of the video and if you smash that like button, you will hear my car buying story, which is kind of embarrassing. It's not glamorous, it's not something guru-ish, like I was not smart when I bought my car. I was right after college, so if you want to stay to the end of the video, you get a little bonus story, I guess. And yeah, anyway, so let's just dive right into it. Alright, really quick. So we got the cost of ownership for 5 years of a new car. So the way that we calculate that is we take the purchase price, so that's going to be $30,000. We're assuming that this is, maybe a Camry, or maybe it's a Toyota Corolla that's more high-end, or some type of Acura, Accord, whatever. It's a $30,000 car. You're going to pay sales tax on that of 10% in Washington. So that's going to be $3,000. We're talking about dealer fees down here. So that's administrative things like generating the paperwork, things like doing the registration, things with the state. So dealer fee is going to be about $400. So your total cost out the door right here is $33,400. So we're talking about buying the car outright. In other words, you come into the door and you buy the entire purchase. You don't finance it. So the unseen costs or hidden costs of the purchase is the value lost over the first 5 years. So we're calculating this over the first 5 years. So depreciation, that's what we have to take into account. And that is 12% in the first year and then 10% in every year afterwards. So after we have depreciated the vehicle, it loses about $15,600 in value, and that's about $266 in value per month. So you have to factor that into your costs, even if you're buying a new car outright. But when you're financing a car, you'll have your interest payments, and you'll have the depreciation of the vehicle, and you'll have the actual pay down of the principal of the vehicle. So anyways, let's get right into buying a used car, and we're going to buy the used car outright. Alright, so let's go ahead and go over this. So the cost of ownership of the new car was $19,000. So in other words, the taxes and the effect on your net worth of the dealer's fees, the effect of the depreciation was $19,000. So that's what it costed you to own that. And this one, the cost of ownership is going to be $2,500. So let's see what all these numbers are. So basically, all of these are related. So depreciation, we're talking about buying a 9-year-old car. It's still from a reliable dealer. It's still a pretty reliable car if we're able to buy the correct car, a car that's been taken care of. And it's going to be about 20% of its value. So I've taken this from $30,000 and I've made it $6,000. So you're buying a car for about $6,000, and it's going to go from the time it is 9 years old to the time that it's 14 years old, or 5 years, which is what we're calculating. It's going to go down from 20% of its value, original value, to 15% of its original value. So the actual car is going to depreciate to about $4,500. So the car is going to be worth $4,500, or in other words, value lost here is going to be $1,500. So we've got the same dealer's fee, we've got the same 10% sales tax, so 10% of $6,600. So your total cost is going to be $7,000. You're losing this much value. And so the cost of ownership is basically going to be this value lost plus the dealer fee plus the sales tax. So the cost of ownership is going to be $2,500, and you're going to own the car, so you could go sell that car. So you actually own an asset, which it's really a liability, but that's kind of technical. We're not going to get into that. So anyways, that's that for buying a used car outright. And we're not going to get into financing a used car, but we are going to get into financing a new car, and you can basically assume the same things. One note on financing a used car is that a lot of people will finance things like classic cars that don't actually lose much value, so that their actual cost of ownership, as far as like the value lost, is negligible because the value of the car doesn't actually go down very much. So if we bought a car that doesn't go down in value very much, say like, I don't know, it's just some type of classical car that holds its value very well, this would be zero, and the actual cost of ownership would just be sales tax and dealer's fees. So that's another thing to consider when you're buying classical cars. So like, you could in theory, get a much nicer car. If this thing's only worth 20% of its original value and you're willing to spend $30,000 already, that means that you could buy something that used to be a $150,000 car. You could buy it 9 years old. Yeah, so if you, I don't know what that was. So if you buy something that is a little bit older, but it's something that holds its value pretty well, whatever you spend is probably what will come back out of the car. So then you're essentially just paying sales tax and dealer fees. But anyways, let's get into financing a new car and see how much of that costs. All right, so now we are financing a new car. So let's real quickly go through this. And it's not too hard what's going on here. So we got purchase price is $30,000 here. We've got the sales tax, which is $3,000. We're assuming, once again, 10% in Washington State. Dealer's fee, we're going to keep that the same, $400. Down payment, we're putting down $2,000, which we'll take off of this purchase price. And anyway, so we're financing $31,400. So where did all that come from? That's taking the purchase price plus the sales price plus the dealer fee and taking off the down payment. So that's the amount that we are financing. So the total cost of the loan, we're assuming that it's 5 years on the loan and that is 5%. So that is going to generate a loan that costs $4,153. So essentially, that's how much interest we're going to pay if it's 5% loan for 60 months. So the cost of ownership, we remember that we have to factor in the value lost. So the value lost here, like we said before, it's going to be $266 per month, which people wonder why, certain individuals struggle to build wealth. It's because they don't know that they're leaking $266 per month of net worth by owning a new car, or by owning a car that they just shouldn't own in the first place. So cost of ownership is going to be $23,153. So where is that coming from? That's coming from the value lost. That's coming from the dealer fees. That's coming from the sales tax. And that is also coming from the interest that you paid on the loan. So as we can see down here, we're starting to get a perfect picture of this situation in this Camry or whatever. New car, $19,000. Used car, if we buy a 9-year-old Camry, $2,500. And finance new is $23,000. So next we're going to get into the lease, and this one's a little bit more complicated. This one you're going to really have to dig into the numbers, but I want to show you guys how to actually do the numbers, what they look like, what the hidden interest rate is in there. There's a bunch of different terms, so this one I would be careful with, and I'm just going to give you a quick preview. I don't like this one. So with this one and this financing and the leasing, it's a little bit different. Like one situation where you could maybe justify leasing or financing is if you are a business owner and you can write that off as an expense. I mean, Uncle Sam already lays claim to that money, so it doesn't really matter as much, but that is a different talk for a different time. Most of us here watching the channel are W-2, or for people outside of the country that don't get a W-2, I'm not sure if they do get a W-2, but if you're employed, you don't have as many write-offs like that. So anyways, let's get into the last one, which is leasing, and then we'll get into the story and we'll get out of here. All right, so let's get into my third and least favorite one. I'm going to try to get through this pretty concisely, but also, break it down to the point where people can understand it if this is the first time they've seen this. So purchase price, that's still going to be the same thing up here, still $30K purchase price. Down payment is going to be $2,000 down here. You're going to pay some sales tax on your down payment, so that's $200 right there. 10% in Washington is what we are assuming on sales tax. Dealer's fees, that's going to be the same stuff. Administrative, blah, blah, blah. Total cost out the door is going to be $30,600. So next we come down to this thing here called the guaranteed value. So essentially what the dealer is going to tell you if you go to lease a car is, if you really love this car at the end of the lease, you can go ahead and buy it at this guaranteed value. But the problem with the guaranteed value is that the guaranteed value is not going to make you any money. The dealers, you have to remember, the dealers are in it to make themselves money. They are not in it to make you money. So this is a 3-year lease. It's a standard lease. Basically, if you look over there at the 3-year value of this car, if it's depreciated 12% in the first year, 10% in the second year, 10% in the third year, what has happened is your car has gone in value down to underneath $21,000. So if your car is worth less than $21,000, then this guaranteed value really doesn't mean too much of anything. Basically what they're saying is this is the most that you'll have to pay for it. But they know, the dealership knows, that it's not going to be worth that amount by the time you bring it back. They know that if you drive the car the way that they expect you to drive the car, like an average individual, that this car is going to be worth significantly less than that. And they're probably going to try to screw you on the price. They're going to try to sell it to you for near that amount, or as close as they can get to that amount. So, and they're going to try to finance, they're going to try to get you to finance the car when they go ahead and sell it to you. So the dealer is in it to make themselves money. So anyways, getting down here, so the amount that you actually finance is the difference between these two values right here. So you have financed $8,600 and your payment is going to be $304.50. So that doesn't seem too bad, right? Since you financed a lower amount, your payment is going to be lower. So now you can afford more car, right? That's great. Americans rejoice. You can get a nicer car. You can always have a nicer car, a newer car, whatever. You finance less of it. You're going to pay sales tax on that payment. So one thing that is a hidden cost, we've got it up here. Hidden cost is what interest rate are you paying on this amount that you finance? A lot of dealers are not going to tell you what interest rate you're paying on this amount that you finance. And this amount right here is about 16.5%. If you actually reverse engineer how much this interest rate is, it's 16.5%. Once you add in the taxes, it's about a 24% interest rate. So you're basically taking out a credit card and using it to buy a car. So at the end of this whole ordeal, your total cost of renting the car is going to be $20,097. So the total cost per month out here is going to be $334.95. So what I did basically was I took that and I just extended it to 5 years so that it could match the 5-year periods of the other things that we're talking about. So hidden costs here. So one thing that you need to make sure of is, the maintenance. What is the maintenance cost going to be? You need to make sure you clear that with the dealer because that could add up. You could be maintaining a car that you do not own or that you will not end up owning. So you could just be maintaining a car for the dealer, which they're going to go rent out to another person. Car buying and financing. So yeah, like we said before, if you end up buying the car, they're probably going to try to sell it to you at a screwy price, bad interest rate. They're going to try to get you to finance it because, as we know, most people are broke and they have to finance things. So hidden interest rate, we talked about that, and 15 cents per mile. That one is basically, it's about 12,000 miles per year. That is the standard amount of miles that they allow you to drive in a leased car per year. So if you want to drive more than that, then they're going to charge you 15 cents per mile. For me, I typically drive about 20,000 miles per year. So if you were to drive more than 20,000 miles, like 30,000 miles or something like that, even if you just drive 20,000 miles, you're going to be paying $3,600 for that 3-year term. So over the course of 5 years, that would be what? 5,000 plus another 1,000. So that's about $6,000 that you would be adding on to that $20,000 lease. In addition, there's just a lot of other clauses that you just have to be wary of when you're dealing with a lease, when you don't actually own the car. So anyways, this one is clearly the most expensive one. There's a huge interest rate hidden in there. There's a bunch of other costs hidden in there. And it tends to be the one that, it costs the most. And if you have the money to pay for something that costs the most, then you can pay for something that costs the most. But you do need to at least know that it does cost the most. So anyways, that is that. So let's get into my car buying story. I'm going to go ahead and erase off the board really quick. And we've got those numbers. If you guys need to take a screenshot of that, or if you guys can't see that, I will put them on the screen right here. But let's get into my story, my car buying story. Okay, so my car buying story. So basically what happened was I was a young boy once, and I went out to buy a car because my car broke down on Christmas. So the day after Christmas, it didn't really break down, the tire popped. So it was totaled in my mind. But anyways, I go to get a Prius because I figured I'm going to get something fuel efficient, walk in the door, and long story short, I ended up walking out with a brand new Toyota Tacoma. The thing costed $44,000, and after tax, it ended up being $48,000 and $400. So ended up buying that, ended up buying it January of 2018. So I drove that thing around for about a year, and eventually I'm adding up all my bills, and I ended up moving into this house, and I was like, look, this thing, the payment is $763. I had an 8.6% interest rate. It was a terrible financial decision. Look, I was not perfect. I am not perfect, but it was a terrible financial decision. So I ended up selling that thing the next January of 2019, and I sold it at about $35,000. Mind you, the loan was at $46,000. So I had to pay $11,000 just to get rid of the car, just to have a Toyota Corolla, which actually costed about $20,000, and I had to buy it for $35,000. So anyways, it was pretty insane the amount of negative equity that I had to roll into my new loan. So I also had a terrible interest rate on that loan. Ended up paying that off within the year. So this year, 2020, I am debt free except for my house. And that is my debt story. That's my debt journey. That's why I am making this video, because this stuff actually means a lot to me, and I don't want somebody to go through this if they can avoid it. So anyways, hopefully you guys do like this type of video. You guys like me writing on the whiteboard, like the math, seeing the actual numbers. And anyways, yeah, if you guys want to support the channel, there's always the links down below. Gotta plug those, gotta self-promo, and I'll see you guys in the next one.